ladies and gentlemen, welcome again to the world famous Rich Wilson Show. I am Rich Wilson, and I have a burrito. And anyway, folks, so I need to turn that down slightly. That's still a little bit loud. I'm looking at it. It's peaking up here pretty high. I'm just going to crank that down just a little bit. So then that way it's not as bad. There we go. That should be about right. Well, actually, I could change that in a couple different places. I'm looking over here at the bars, and the bars are up pretty high, and I could turn that down just slightly, and then it makes it a little bit less abrupt and loud. All right, so anyway, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show tonight. For you, we have the right direction with Rich Wilson. Thank you, Thomas Palfrey is over there on Facebook. By the way, folks, I'm on Facebook, Twitch, and YouTube at the same time, so whichever one is convenient for you, go ahead and use it. By the way, we're now also uploading all of our streams to Rumble as well. So lots of places to see the show. So tonight we're going to be talking about Iran. We're going to talk about Denmark. We're also going to be I got some updates for you when it comes to concern about the Stockton fire chief that was shot and killed. Ivermectin is making a back to a comeback on in the COVID news, and the first day of Black History Month didn't start off so well for historical black colleges and universities. So we're going to go ahead and get this show started. First of all, let's talk about the Iranians. The reason why we're going to talk about the Iranians is, number one, I don't have a fanfare for Iran. I really don't. But by the way, the pictures that you're seeing now, I'll tell you who these people are, but it's very important to the story. Now, we understand that back a couple months ago, the Israel-Palestinian thing became real big, and a lot of people were sitting there saying that, we need to support Palestinians and not Israel because Israel's committing genocide, and people tried to let them know that the Palestinians were being funded by the Iranians, and nobody seemed to give a damn. And we fast forward a couple months of people talking about how we need to get back into the nuclear arms deal with Iran, okay? And that's become the thing. But I wanted to give you a little bit of information about something that just recently happened here in Iran, and but what they do is not new. And obviously, a lot of people don't have any idea. So when you want to start spouting off at the mouth about, getting back into the nuclear deal with Iran, let me explain why this is a bad thing for both for you people on the left. They keep talking about this. Okay, so understand something about Iran. In Iran, it is absolutely and totally illegal. Okay, and I'm not going to go into the breakdown of the law, but it is 100% illegal, and the penalty is death if you are a member of the LGBTQ community. Okay? Absolutely punishable by death. The reason why I say that is you see the picture of the two guys that popped up on the screen, and as it rotates around, that's Murad Karimpo and Fareed Mohammadi. Okay? These two gentlemen here were a gay couple. Now I say were. They're not anymore because they were executed today for being gay. Now this is not something new for Iran. However, the gentleman that you see pop up on the screen there, that's the president. That's Saeed Abraham Rasoladadi. Okay. I can't. Part of me misses Ahmad on a dinner salad. It was so much easier to pronounce his name. But anyway, that's the one who signs the execution warrant. Now, when you think to yourself, you're like, oh, well, okay, they're killing LGBTQ people in wholesale. And the reason why I say that is in the last year, January 1st, 2021 to December 20th, they executed 300 people. It's actually 299. And another 85 were sentenced to death during that year. They've already sentenced 12 to death this year alone. Okay. Now, you're like, well, Rich, what does that mean? All right, well, twats there, let me explain this to you. Okay? You want the United States to go back in the Iran deal. Oh, we're so worried that the Iranians are going to get a nuclear bomb. Folks, they're going to get a nuclear bomb. Okay? Don't stop and think that, oh, because they enter in a deal, they're not going to get the bomb. They're going to get the bomb. The Ayatollah of Iran has not made any qualms about wanting to wipe countries off the face of the earth. They've made no qualms about that. But what does this mean if they go back in the Iranian deal? Do you understand that part of the restrictions that we have against Iran is their financial institution, or the financial institutions that currently hold Iranian money outside of the country of Iran have been locked off. They can't get access to it. We're talking about the tune of almost $1 trillion. Okay? If we enter back in the Iranian deal and the Iranians play nice for a short period of time, they will have access to all of this money again. That means they're going to get the bomb. That means they're going to and this is the real bad part about it is Iran is the chief sponsor of terrorism in the world. Okay? That's not an exaggeration. That's a legitimate fact. Iran is the number one chief sponsor of terrorism on the planet. Okay? You guys have seen in the news lately the Houthis that have been sending ICBMs into Saudi Arabia, Iranian-backed. Hezbollah, PLO, all backed by them. Some sects of Al-Qaeda, backed by the Iranians. Okay? A couple different Asian terrorist organizations, backed by Iran. The some of and the Al Qaeda ones that you wonder about Al Qaeda, you're like, oh, this is not backed by. No, Al Qaeda terrorists were funded by Iran going into Iraq and trying to take Iraq back over after we removed Saddam Hussein, backed by Iran. Okay, so here's the deal: if we open that money back up to them, they're going to severely modernize their terrorist organizations that they sponsor. They're going to fund them better. They're going to get better at what they do. That means more attacks. More attacks. Okay? And they're going to kill more people that are in the LGBTQ community because it's still illegal there. You would have to overthrow their government in order to eliminate that law. Because every time they try to run an election, it's not a fair election. And anybody who tries to run for a pro-Westerner kind of law system loses and then suddenly disappears. So by sitting there saying that you want the United States to deal with Iran, and proof in the pudding is the picture. When Obama entered the Iran deal that John Kerry penned, you remember the pallet of cash that showed up in Iran? That was a pallet of cash that was being held due to sanctions as an offering, saying, if you behave yourself, more of this will come. Okay? They used that money not to benefit their society. Okay? And they've not even tried to hide that. They use that money for other nefarious reasons. They're a sponsor of terrorism. That country is the biggest supporter of terrorism in the world. They kill gays, lesbians, transgenders, bisexuals, you name it. If you're not straight, if you're not heterosexual, male with a subservient wife, you're executed. They can execute you because it's against the law. There's no reason to support this country. There's no reason to allow this country to have access to those things again. There's no reason that we should be doing anything with Iran but strangling the country off until the citizens of that country overthrow their government and change the archaic ways that they do things and stop sponsoring terrorism. They are a huge threat to the United States and the United States' interest abroad. They are also a threat to here in the United States. We're going to give them their money back and allow them to do things that they want to do, which they've never changed this. When President Ronald Reagan came into office, he had to deal with them. Carter had to deal with their garbage. Every president has had to deal with the dumb stunts of terrorism that they have pulled off, but they're getting better and better and better at this. But I don't want you to forget those two guys that are up on the screen. Okay? They have trying to have a legitimate relationship with each other, and they were arrested and executed simply because being homosexual, transgender, whatever in the United States or in Iran is illegal and is punishable by death. These are the people you want us to enter back in with the deal with to prevent them from getting the bomb. They're still going to get the bomb, folks. Even while Obama's deal was in place, they were still progressing to get the bomb. So even John Kerry's, Iranian nuclear arms deal didn't do anything. It may have slowed them down slightly, only because they were trying to play along to get more money. That's all they're going to do this time. They're just going to be better at it. Okay? I'm not kidding when I say this. Okay? I'm not. This isn't me trying to conflate the story. This is legitimate. We don't need to be entering into deals with these people. We don't. And the sheer fact that people are, and then like I said, here's the problem. A lot of you during the summer were all like, "Oh, we need to be pro-Palestinian because of what the Israelis did to them." You know, the Palestinians and their actions are funded by Iran, and you know that it's also illegal to be in the LGBT community and be in Palestine. Did you know that? So you're sitting there, and this is where I draw my conclusion last night and Friday night. You're supporting countries because you're told to do so. Because if you actually took the time to understand what the system in these countries existed as, you would not support them. If you truly believed in equality and fighting for the rights of the people in the LGBTQ community, you wouldn't try to come close to anything involving Iran or countries that directly are involved with Iran that are supported by Iran. Which that right then and there, Palestine, out the door. But you're told to have this outrage. You're told to have this outrage, so you do it. You obey like good little obedient soldiers that you are, not understanding that just based on that alone, you have no moral right in yourself to sit there and say, I stand for LGBTQ rights. You can't. Because to do so, but then to turn around in the same breath and say that we support Palestine is a contradiction. And it means you don't actually support it. So the next time that one of you guys wants to say that, we should support Palestine because Israel's the bad guy. Think about this. In Palestine, they execute people that are in the LGBTQ community. They do. Iran executes those people. So think about that. The next time you want to say you're pro-Palestinian, just think about it this way. The PLO has killed more people in the LGBTQ community than anyone's done in the United States. Ever. So just let that sink in on who you're supporting. You're not supporting those two guys. You're not. Those guys died. You're supporting that guy. That's who you're supporting. Remember that the next time you want to get on that soapbox about that. I need to get my mouse over here. All right. So let's move on to our next top story of the night. That guy right there, that is Denmark's Secretary of Health. That's Magnus Heunicke. I believe that's how you pronounce his name. Well, today Denmark became the first EU company. Yeah, it's a company. Okay, Denmark became the first EU country to lift all COVID-19 restrictions. This means that an indoor mask mandate, the use of COVID pass for bars, restaurants, and other indoor venues, and legal obligation to self-isolate if you're testing positive are all ending. Copenhagen, Denmark has lifted all these restrictions within the country, with coronavirus no longer considered a socially critical sickness, according to the government. More and more governments are starting to realize this. Some of them are saying, look, COVID is never going to go away. It is time that we found a way to live our lives with that as in our lives. We live with the flu. We live with a lot of other things that kill people. There's ways around it. Like I said, Denmark slotted February 1st is the date that it's ending all its restrictions. Great Britain has done this now too. They've removed all of theirs. Israel is looking at going to this here shortly. Spain is looking to go to this here shortly. A lot of countries in Europe have finally said, that's it. We don't think we're doing this anymore. And they've started the conversations about dropping all the restrictions. The United States, and here's the thing, and a lot of people made these comments about how Texas and Florida, who released all their restrictions and bucked the system, oh, well, so many people were dying and ushered off into hospitals in the ICU. It turns out that information was falsified. Because what they were doing is they were taking anybody that was hospitalized and saying it was because of that. It was totally and utterly untrue. Okay? Because nobody was separating the difference between hospitaled with and hospitaled because. And Denmark said they've had enough. England has said they've had enough. A lot of countries have said they've had enough. And they're not doing it anymore. And I'm going to bet dollars to donuts that this leads into my part of my next story here. Yesterday while I was searching through everything, and I really didn't want to comment on it because it's a new situation, is that the Omicron has a variant. Now, yesterday, the stories were Omicron is resistant to the vaccines. They don't, the variant is just as resistant to the vaccines, that they don't work, that it's going to spread really fast. And 12 hours later, the news stories changed across the board. 12 hours later. Suddenly, in the 24/7, 365-day-a-week laboratory that runs like a Walmart, probably has about the same kind of people that work at Walmart. Well, I think this is where the shoppers, the people of Walmart, those shoppers, I think this is where they work, is in this 24/7 lab that suddenly in 12 hours can tell you that, no, it's not resistant to the vaccine. The vaccines work, and it's then saying it's highly contagious and everything else. Well, there's scientists that have come out. I went looking for the name because I saw it somewhere, and I went back to look for the article, and I know the article's there, and I'll have to dig it out, and I'll get you that scientist's name tomorrow. There are scientists that come out and say, no, it's like a 1 in 4. It's 1 in 4 compared to Omicron, which was almost 1 in 1. It's a 1 in 4 chance of spreading, which means it's back down to close to Delta or Alpha levels, and it's still resistant to the vaccines and the boosters. But somehow, like I said, the people of Walmart's testing lab facility, they determined in 12 hours with less than 10,000 case sample size that this is not resistant, that the vaccine is effective against it, and it's extremely highly contagious and lots of people could die. A lot of people are starting to get to the point, and once again, I tell you, if you want to take the vaccine, by all means. If you want to do the boosters, by all means. Please, do whatever you feel is necessary for you to make you feel safe. Okay? But a lot of people are starting to get tired of this variant of the month club program. It's like one of those subscription services like they used to have back in the 80s and the 90s, like the Jelly of the Month Club. And the problem is, once you signed up that year, it was almost like Columbia House. Remember Columbia House? We were all, when some of us were kids, we had Columbia House. And then what you did is you got 6 free CDs in the mail for 1 penny. But then you had to agree during the year to buy so many more CDs. It's kind of like that. You can't get out of it. You're stuck with it. Okay? And a lot of people are just getting tired of the variant of the month club. And as long as the people of Walmart laboratory and testing facilities, brought to you in part by the CDC, are still running their facilities, then they'll just keep changing the story every other day to fit whatever they need. Because like I said, it's really weird that yesterday they started talking about the variant and where these places are, and the fact that there's not a lot of cases as of right now, to today, evidently, everything switched in 12 hours. Now, you and I both know you ain't getting that kind of information in 12 hours, but evidently the people at Walmart testing facilities, they did. I don't know, maybe they have a time machine and they went forward in time and made determinations that way. Who knows? But seriously, they just need to stop. Which that's going to bring me to my next story here, and we're trugging right along on some of these. So my next story, this will be my second story for tonight. As soon as I can find the tag for it, where is it? There it is. Hey, we're almost professionals here. My second story of tonight is going to be ivermectin makes a return into the news. Kowa Ltd. It's a Japanese trading pharmaceuticals company, has been doing studies, which they're not funded by the federal government of the United States or anybody else. Been doing studies on this, independent studies, and ivermectin shows antiviral effect against COVID. Japanese company says known by false reporting as only a horse dewormer. It is actually showing signs that it works. Now, a lot of people jumped on that because the left sat there and pushed that issue. Oh, it's a horse dewormer. Well, yes, that's one of the uses of the drugs. But if you are so narrow-minded that you think when they make a drug that's the only thing they use it for, you need to stop posting online. You're ruining it for everybody. Ivermectin is used for a couple different things. And yes, it does help in deworming a horse. Okay? It does. It is used for that. But it's also used for other things. It can also it is one of the drugs in the cocktail and one of the deals for going after malaria. It's on the malaria drug list. It's on a couple other drug lists or virus and so forth. Okay. So the thing is, it's not just a horse dewormer. humans have been getting prescribed ivermectin. Same thing with the other one that starts with a C that I can never pronounce. Okay. They're used for multiple things. And again today, when this story came up about ivermectin again, of course we all know the big to do about ivermectin was when Joe Rogan was using it. Everybody attacked Joe Rogan saying, well, he's using horse dewormer. Go use your horse dewormers, you crazy right wingers. Okay, it's literally used as a medication for other things with people. And that became the talking point of the day, was horse dewormers. You know, it's kind of like the whole thing, inject with bleach. That never got said. Okay. But people saying this, like I said, for those of you that were repeating that garbage online, do me a favor and delete your social media accounts. You're ruining it for everybody. In fact, I'm going to request that you don't turn around and have children. I don't think that they need to be educated that way. You're the last person in the world that needs to tell anybody what medications they should be or should not be taking. And see, here's the other problem with that I have. It's not your place on your social media pedestal to tell me what the hell I can and cannot take. Okay? It's not. That's a conversation between me and my damn doctor. And you can stay the hell out of it. If I decide that that's what I'm going to take, because I can't take the vaccines. Thanks to pericarditis, I can't take the vaccines. Okay? So because of this, ivermectin may be something that I can take. Or the chloroquine one may be something that I could take. But I can't take the vaccine. So do me a favor, for those of you out there running your mouth, acting like you got your PhD, the only PhD you got was because you watched a YouTube video and you think that qualifies. It's kind of like Facebook lawyers. As soon as something legal happens in the world, well, this is illegal under this standpoint. Those of us that have a law degree look at you and laugh our asses off. Because the law offices of Facebook, and Zuckerberg, they're not very accurate. Just saying. I mean, I hope they're one of those ones that only charges you if they win, because you're not going to win. So you leave that conversation between an individual and his doctor. And if I sit there and say on Facebook, hey, I'm taking ivermectin because my doctor said that's about my only chance at this point. Don't sit there and lecture me about how I'm taking a damn dewormer pill. Okay, because obviously you're an idiot. Because you obviously you're not allowed to read past what you're told to believe. And if you read past what you're told to believe, then you would understand that it is used for other things. All right. So I said earlier today that today was not a good day, a good start-off day for historically black colleges and universities. Usually at the start, because today is Black History Month, and the picture you see up there, that's Howard University. Usually something happens at some point, and they're still investigating what this was all about, and there's some rumors out there running around right now that this could be a 4chan prank that got started, or a Reddit prank that got started. Anyway, there was multiple bomb threats at historically black colleges and universities today. Growing number of these colleges have had to do lockdown or postpone classes due to bomb threats on the first day of the month. I'm not saying you don't take these issues real, and I think whoever decided to do this needs to be prosecuted to the fullest. Like, I don't know who the hell you are that started this trend. I think it's probably the same idiot that started the Tide Pod Challenge. But that's just speculation on my part. Anyway, stop doing this dumb shit. It's kind of like, remember when we were kids, and usually when you got to the end of summer, all of a sudden there was bomb threats or the fire alarm get pulled, and I was never a fan of that when I was a kid. Okay, never was a fan of that. I'm not a fan of it now as an adult. It's stupid, and people could get hurt. Not to mention the fact these people go to this college to get an education. Whether I agree with some of the educations that they're getting or not is beside the point. They're going to college to get an education. Leave them the hell alone. And of course, somebody had to be cool, make it a statement that on the first day of Black History Month, we're going to send out bomb threats. You're just a jackass that needs to be drug out in some street somewhere and beaten within an inch of your life with a rubber newspaper. Okay, I'm joking about the inch of your life thing, but somebody needs to whack you upside your head. Just don't let it be Bruce Arians from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They'll try to find him. But somebody needs to whack you upside your damn head. Stop doing that stupid crap. You know, some people thought it was funny when you were in school. It's not funny when you're doing it to colleges. And it's not funny when you're targeting a specific college, because that looks racist on so many parts. And I realize it's a prank, but it looks racist. On the first day of Black History Month, you target historically black colleges and universities. That looks racist. Now you're probably going to say, oh, it's just a prank. Who gives a shit? Nobody cares what you were thinking you were doing. It's downright ignorant. I mean, like I said, there needs to be a rubber newspaper in your future. Anyway, as the day went on, they found out that there wasn't any bombs. They were all hoaxes, and they're trying to search down what this was. Like I said, rumors going around it could be a 4chan prank or a Reddit prank. Of course, you can't regulate 4chan, so God only knows. They may never find out who did it there, but yeah, they're starting to say that it's a possibility that it wasn't one person, that there was a prank that went out. Now, remember, there was also one way back where schools got bomb threats, and it was on an automated call software where you could type in what you wanted it to say, and then it would call all these numbers that you inputted on the list, and it could have been that too, but just it ain't funny. It's not cool. You're not Joe Cool at the top of the pile for doing this. You've pissed a lot of people off, and they're going to catch you, and I hope they put you in jail for a while. So, like I said, at the end of the day, everybody turned out to be fine and everything's good, so it ended with good news. Now, let's see, where are we at now? Oh, yes, our lovely father and son killing combination. That's right. Now, last night, this is an update to last night's story. Oh, by the way, I'll get to that next story in a minute. Okay, so this is an update to last night's story. Last night, I told you about how people were talking about the plea deal was racist, and I told you it's not racist for them to make a plea deal. It's just a part of the court system. It's a way that prosecutors can avoid costing the taxpayers hundreds of thousands of dollars in cases. Not to mention the fact, I think I gave you the thought that they were trying to do this to get this done and over with, so they didn't run the risk of a jury determining it wasn't a hate crime, and then they don't get convicted of a hate crime, and then riots break out again, because we saw how those riots went. A lot of people that didn't have jobs, that had nothing better to do, decided to burn down the corner liquor store because equal rights. Like, the liquor store is the reason why we need to burn the liquor store down for equal rights. All you did was you screwed up the flow of beer into the community. Way to go. So anyway, I found there an update, because as of last night, after I went off the air, about a half an hour later, it got released that the judge actually denied the plea deal. Now, I did tell you last night that a judge still has to sign off on it. It's not done just because your defense attorney and the prosecution agreed on it. The judge still has to sign off on it. Well, the judge reject the plea deal for Arbery's killer. Now, this just for the son right now, not for the dad. So far, just the son. It's got his rejected. Now, we haven't heard about the dad yet. I looked at it before I went on to see if there was an update. Not an update yet. Judge rejects the plea deal, and the Arbery Travis McMichael and as a federal hate crime. This was following the impassionate testimony from the Arbery family members who said they felt betrayed by the offer. Also, in this particular case, the family of the victim has to sign on this one. There's a caveat to this. It doesn't happen in all cases, but it can happen in some where the family of the victim has to agree to it. In this situation, I'm finding out that the family does have to sign off on it. They were never even consulted on the matter. It was basically tried to be done in the middle of the night. Okay. So in that situation, nope, sorry. It gets denied. Now what's going on here is in the argument on this, what they're trying to say is that, okay, so understand these two are not going to see the outside of a prison other than when they go to court. Okay. They got life without the possibility of parole, and life in Georgia means you're there until your heart stops beating. Okay. So what ended up happening is that the federal government still pressed charges against them for committing a hate crime. Okay. Now, what the federal court was going to try to do, the federal court was looking at it as, well, if they plead guilty to it, what they're going to do is they're going to give them 30 years in a federal penitentiary. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, because there's a lot of misinformation on this. If you get convicted of murdering somebody and it's considered a hate crime in federal prison, you don't go to the blue-collar prison like Martha Stewart did. Okay, you don't get to go to Camp Cupcake Penitentiary. All right. You do some serious time in a federal penitentiary for murdering someone, especially a heinous hate crime. Well, they claimed that the sentence was too light. Well, here's the problem. They're not ever going to get out of prison. Now, yes, I've seen prison sentences where somebody's gotten 300, 400 years. It makes no sense, but the reason being is because in some states, every sentence, if you don't do it a certain way, they're eligible for parole every so often. So even if you get a 400-year sentence and say in your state, you get 4 counts and 100 years on each count, and you're eligible for parole in 20 years. At the end of that 20 years, if you make parole, you move on to the next sentence. You have to serve. The federal court was also trying to put it in that they was going to serve concurrently, not consecutively, which means the 30 years would be ticked off, which it still doesn't really matter because in Georgia, they got a life sentence without parole and they're never getting out of prison. So still, the whole situation, it's too late. They're never going to be free men again. So it really doesn't matter what they get sentenced to with federal prison. They're not going to go to Camp Cupcake. And I'm sorry, but I don't see the point in wasting taxpayer dollars. What? So you can give them a 100-year life sentence for a hate crime? They're already serving for murdering Ahmaud Arbery, and they'll never get out again. So what's the point? I've never agreed with this. We're going to stack all these multiple 100-year sentences on top of it so they never get out again. Just simply write the law. You can be if you are convicted and sentenced to life without parole, that means you can only leave the prison once your life has ceased to be. Then you don't have to do this, because what's the point? What's the point in giving somebody a 500-year sentence? No one lives 500 years. It's a pointless sentence. It's to make a statement. That's all it is. It's to legitimately make a statement. And it's unfortunate that's how it's being used. By the way, ladies and gentlemen, if you like the show and you like the things I say, don't forget to click on the subscribe button, or on Facebook, click the follow button. Hit the notification button so you know that every time when I'm on, you'll get it. Also, remember, I'm also on Twitch as well. Twitch TV. The handle on it is Yamish. That's YHAMISH. You can find me on Twitter and Getter, and also Rumble, all under YHAMISH. Please make sure that you subscribe and get those notifications, every time I'm doing something. That way you never miss a beat of the world-famous Rich Wilson Show. All right, so let's move on to our next second story of the night. Last night we ran a story about Captain... that's not going anywhere. Need that to go. I told you about Captain Vidal Max Fortuna. He was the Stockton firefighter captain that was killed trying to put out a dumpster fire at a business complex yesterday. Well, the Robert Somerville was the one that they arrested, who was the one who shot him. Now, Robert Somerville, 67-year-old Stockton resident, owns a food truck business and has a rental section of that business complex where the dumpster fire was. His son got on TV today and made a passionate plea saying that this shooting was not intentional. He wasn't intending to kill a firefighter. Said he had a rash of burglaries on the business property, and he seriously thought somebody was there to steal stuff. Now, I understand your passionate plea about this, and I get that you don't want your father to go to prison for murdering a firefighter, okay? But the problem is, when you own a gun and you're going to use that gun to defend yourself or your property, there's one thing that responsible gun owners, me being one, know full well about this, okay? Being a responsible gun owner, you are supposed to always identify your target. Now, I could partially understand thinking somebody was breaking into the property if the captain had showed up in his civilian vehicle and not in uniform because he was on his way to the firehouse when the alarm went off and decided to respond there instead. But when you look at the pictures of the crime scene, you see the dumpster. You see the smoke damage that's up on the wall. You see the fire chief's SUV. You see the covering it where they covered over the fire chief's where they covered over Fortuna's body, and the crime scene tape, and you see the door where Somerville came out. Everything is in plain sight and easily identifiable. It's not, like I said, it's not like the chief was in plain clothes in a regular vehicle with a fire extinguisher, showed up to a dumpster fire to put it out. He was in a fire chief's vehicle. The lights were going. He's sitting there trying to direct to put the fire out in a dumpster to make sure it doesn't spread to the building. He's wearing fire gear. Okay? The man comes out the door and starts shooting. Literally, one of the firefighters that was on scene said they were getting ready to put the water onto the fire, and then shots ring out. There was no screaming, "Hey, get off my property," because that's another thing you understand as a responsible gun. Now, if you're in my house, I will argue with you on whether or not I should give you a warning to get out because you've made it into my house. You've made your decision. But if you're on my property, I've got to give you a warning. I've got to tell you to get off my property. I've got to tell you, leave. You're trespassing. I have to identify, and and then your response or not, dictates what happens next. This opportunity never came. He opens the door and starts shooting. Now, like I said, I understand his son. I saw the interview with his son today. He was very passionate about, we mourn for the loss of the firefighters and the firefighters' families. We understand this, and we are sorry for your loss. But then he says that this was an unfortunate accident. Unfortunate, yes. But as a responsible gun owner, I find it hard to support this is unfortunate. This is an accident when you come out the door and just start shooting at what's out there. Like I said, as a responsible gun owner, you're responsible for making sure you identify your target. You do not point a gun at anything you do not intend to shoot. And if you're not intending to shoot firefighters or police officers or anything like that, then why don't you need to verify that at the end of that, what you're looking at through the front sight is not somebody that shouldn't be shot. That's part of the responsibility is owning a gun, is you accept that. Now, he said that there had been a rash of burglaries in that complex. Okay. He's inside the building working on his food truck. You can't just go out into a parking lot because you think somebody's breaking in your car and shoot them up. You can't do that. In fact, you can't do that in any state, especially in a business complex. Just because somebody's breaking in your car doesn't mean you go out into the parking lot and shoot them. That's the other thing that missed me about this. You can't just be at a place of business. Look, somebody's breaking into my car. Let me go outside and shoot them. You can't do that in no state. That's not legal in any state. You know, you just can't. Even in Texas or Nevada or Florida or other states that have open carry laws, you can't just shoot somebody because they're stealing some shit. You can't do that. It's not legal. Like if I walked out in a parking lot, if I say I go over to the Best Buy, okay, and we come outside and somebody's breaking into our car, I can't just draw my weapon and shoot them. I can't do that. I'm going to jail. I will go to jail for murder if they die. Best case scenario, I'll go to jail for assault with a deadly weapon. Okay, which means I have a felony now and I can't own guns. Worst case scenario, the guy dies and I go for felony homicide. You can't do that. And I think one of these days maybe I should do a show on exercising your Second Amendment rights and what your limitations are, so I can clean up some misnomers about what is legal and what isn't legal, because a lot of people on both sides of the fence don't seem to understand sometimes on what's legal and what's not. People think just because they're on my property means I get to shoot them. No, it doesn't. And even in Florida's castle law, which has the most open castle law of all of them, you can't just shoot somebody for being on your property, even though they claim you can. I've seen that argument made many times against Florida's castle law. That's not legal. I know. I lived in Florida. I owned guns. I had a friend who I owned guns. I have a friend that was a sheriff's officer there and lived right down the street. I asked him specifically about it. I said, can you clarify the misunderstanding to me about the castle law? In Florida, am I allowed to shoot somebody simply because they're on my property? He said, no, that's not how the law works. How the law works is you have to warn them. You have to feel a threat towards your family or your well-being or them depriving you of your rights or property. Okay? So there has to be some things that are met in that. It's not just simply, oh, you're in my property. Boom, boom, boom. Doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way in any state. You can't just simply shoot somebody. There has to be reasons behind it. And even if this guy seriously thought somebody was trying to break into his property, that still doesn't give you the right to shoot them. It doesn't. California is very strict about owning guns on business property. Just because you rent the property does not mean you automatically have the right to carry, or you rent it doesn't mean you automatically have the right to carry a gun on it. Your county, and I looked it up, Stockton, I can't really narrow it down, and I was still working on it before the show started, and I couldn't get it narrowed down. Stockton's very restricted about having firearms on properties. And in fact, in most cases, from what I was understanding, the only people allowed on a property with a firearm are people that are first responders or licensed bonded security agents. from my understanding, and I could be wrong. And if one of my viewers out there is watching from Stockton, please clarify that for me if I'm wrong. But from what I understood, it has to be first responders licensed in the state to be able to have a firearm as part of their job, or licensed bonded security agents. That's my understanding of it. So you can't do that. So they got him for firearms possession, which backs up what I was what I looked at, and they got him for murder. Now, probably more than likely, what they're going to do is they're going to try to move this to involuntary manslaughter, because maybe his intent wasn't to kill. Murder usually means you were intending to kill someone. Maybe that wasn't his intention. So they'll probably get him. They'll ask him if he'll plead guilty to involuntary manslaughter, which will give him 10 years. Then they can then turn around and go for involuntary or like I said, they'll drop the gun possession charge and go for involuntary, which gives him 10 before he can be paroled. I don't know where I'm at on that. Being a former volunteer firefighter, I don't know where I feel about that personally. You shot and killed a firefighter. It wasn't like you couldn't tell they were a firefighter. And that's my problem with it. They're there to put the fire out. They're there to save lives. They're not there to take anybody's shit or arrest anybody. That's not their job. In most cases, they like to joke. The running joke is they put the wet stuff on the hot stuff. They do a lot more than that, but that's what they do. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is our show for tonight. Kind of got through everything pretty quickly tonight. I don't have anything else. If there's anybody out there in the viewing audience, and you guys want to talk about anything, feel free to pop up in the chat room and say, hey, what about this? What are your feelings about this? By the way, as of right now, no known artist dropped from Spotify as of today. Now that could change. Don't know. But hey, we'll keep an eye on that for you to keep you informed. Why? Because we here at the Rich Wilson Show know you need to stay in the know. And because we know you need to know, we know. And if we know, you'll know, because we know that you want to know. All right. So I'm going to end on this. Like I said, I'll tell you right now that people stand up for yourselves. Don't get shut down. Don't get silenced. Defeat fake hate, because it's real. Okay? Fake hate is a real thing. It's a bunch of people running around claiming they hate shit simply because they're told to do so. But something else came to me today, and Trace Gowdy said this, and this stuck with me, and it's going to stick with me as advice to you out there in the world. It's a real simple sentence, and it's a great sentence. And if you believe in this and you live by this, they can't silence you and they can't shut you down. Don't let others determine who you are. You are who you are. Be who you are. Don't let other people make that determination. And where that came from is as you know, when it comes to this, the Miss America, it was, I believe, 2019 or 2018, committed suicide over the weekend, or during the week. And they saw in a lot of her postings and stuff that she was horrifically under attack by cyberbullies. And it got to her. But I will tell you, don't let others determine who you are. You be you. and always be you. And then they can't silence you. They can't stop you. My friend Sherry, watching over in Facebook land, said she rode the Gateway Arch tram today. One side of Missouri and over to the other side. So, hey, I never got a chance to do that. I've seen it, but I've never gotten a chance to ride the tram that they have. You know, I hope you had a blast. I hope it was a good time. I will tell you, that one of the issues I had out there with the arch. Now, are you talking about? We're talking about the arch that's over there in St. Louis. The Great Arch, if I'm correct on that. I got stuck there. I was on the overpass, or on the bridge leading to go over the top of the Mississippi, and the World Series, the St. Louis Cardinals were playing, and the World Series was playing, and we got stuck. There was a horrific traffic jam, and I for some reason was smart enough to park over by the guardrail, where you look down and you could see into their stadium from up there. If anybody's been across that, it'll tell you can see right down into the Cardinal Stadium. And the Cardinals were playing, and we actually got to watch 3 innings of the World Series from up there because the traffic wasn't moving, and I saw McGuire hit a home run. I thought it was cool. I thought it was cool as hell. She sent pictures of it. I can't show it to you. I'm trying to blow them up to see if I'm correct about the arch thing. And now I'm realizing I don't have touchscreen over here. Let's see. I'm trying to see if that's what we're talking about. Yeah, no, it's the arch in St. Louis. Did you get a good picture of it? 630-foot arch, which is taller than the Washington Monument. If you've ever been to the Washington Monument, I've been to Washington Monument many, many times. A lot of fun. Oh wow, she was up there. Yep, she's up at the top of the arch, and she took a gorgeous photo of downtown, and that's awesome. I'll have to share that on my social media pages as fan submitted pictures of what she did today. Folks, if you get a chance to go out and explore the United States, by all means do. Don't let this pandemic bullshit stop you. Okay? Go out and see the country. I, luckily enough, as a truck driver and a member of the military who moved around a lot, got to see a lot of this country. I haven't gotten a chance to see Mount Rushmore yet. That is definitely on my buckets list to go see. I haven't gotten a chance to go see that, but go out and see your country. Okay, don't believe this bullshit about the country is a horrible, hateful place and we should burn it all to the ground. Go out and actually explore your country. There's a lot out there. There's a lot of history out there too. You guys should really go out there and explore it. I've seen some cool places. I will make a recommendation if you ever make it out to Nevada, California area, right at the border. Go, if you get a chance, go out to Lake Tahoe. You'll never run into a place in the world like it. Nowhere in the world like it. It's absolutely gorgeous. You should really go out and take a look at it. I recommend it. It's the jewel of the Sierra Nevadas. It is absolutely amazing. When you get a chance, go out there. People always ask me, you lived in Nevada for a long time. What's the best deal to get in Las Vegas? And I tell them, like, you want to spend a lot of money? No. Go to Reno. You can get almost all the same shit you can get in Las Vegas, and it's a hell of a lot cheaper. Not to mention the fact you can't go to Lake Tahoe in Vegas unless you want to drive 7.5 hours north. Okay? It's right there. And in fact, a lot of the hotel casinos in Reno have tours that take you up there. Not to mention the fact you can go up to Donner Summit where they ate people. That's always a cool thing. You go to Virginia City. The world's largest historical monument when it comes to an entire town. Still looks like it did. It's still, with the exception of paved roads, still looks like it did from the Old West. during the mining days. Go out and see your country. Go out and take a look. I mean, you live here. You don't go to other countries that just stay in one spot. When you go out there, you go to visit. Well, you got no excuse to not go visit your country. Well, you still can go from state to state without papers. Like in Red October, you can go state to state without papers. Yes, you can go state to state without papers. But no, you can't have a wife in Montana and another one in Arizona and raise rabbits. Okay, well, you raise the rabbits parts, but you can't have two wives. But still, go out and visit your country. Go out and take a look at stuff. Go take a look. You'd be amazed at the stuff you'd see in this country and stuff you weren't even aware was there. You'd only seen pictures of it. Go out and have a good time. And most of all, just be excellent to each other. Really. Just be human beings. That term, human being. You're supposed to be. Okay? Be excellent to each other. Don't let others determine who you are. And go enjoy your life. Go have fun. For everybody here at the world famous Rich Wilson studio, I'm Rich Wilson. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. Once again, like I told you before, make sure if you're on YouTube, click the subscribe button, the bell button, and the like button. If you're on Facebook, hit follow, share this video. Hell, share it if you're on YouTube. If you're on Twitch, look at it on Twitch. It'll be there. And support this channel. We have this. We work our ass off over here to give you this kind of content. Like I said, like, follow, subscribe. Notifications, stuff like that. And I listen to my fans. So if you got any input on the show or anything you'd like talked about, make sure you comment on one of the formats, on one of the deals. I'm here for you. That's what I do. Like I said, for everybody else here at the world famous Rich Wilson Studios, I'm Rich Wilson, and I have a burrito, and you need to have yourself a good night. We'll see you later. We're out of here. And one quick look at the weather. Yeah, it's kind of cloudy, and it's going to get cold as shit down here in South Texas. So anyway, you guys have yourselves a good night. We'll see you later. Bye-bye. I almost forgot. Tom Brady fucking retired. Who gives a shit? Good night.